Alright, here's the latest surface chart as of 12Z. So we're looking at basically 6 a.m. this morning, or 7 a.m. this morning. Area of low pressure is pretty much where the NAM had been depicting it, located just to the west or southwest of Jackson, Mississippi, just east of the Mississippi River, trailing cold front into the Gulf of Mexico. Strong flow coming out of the Gulf, pushing north. Could be a severe weather outbreak there along the Gulf Coast later on today. As we watch this low pressure system, an important feature which is developing and one that we can use diagnostically for tracking the storm is this inverted trough, which has developed to the north of the low pressure. It's a sign of strong warm air advection aloft, but it's also an indicator, a very strong indicator of the eventual track of the storm system. Low pressures like to track along the path of an inverted trough, so if that trend follows, we would expect this low to track up into northern Mississippi, into west central and central Tennessee, and then heading up towards southern Indiana and northern Kentucky area as it follows the track of that inverted trough. More importantly, even though for us right now is the advancing cold front, winds have been shifting around from a light and variable northeast to easterly direction to more northerly direction as this front gets pulled southward. That's in response to the deepening low pressure system. As this thing becomes a vacuum and stronger, it will help draw winds into a more southerly direction and help pull this cold front and accelerate it further to the south with time as we go through the next several hours. And as we look at temperatures here in a little bit, you'll notice we are not all that far above freezing at this point already. Reinforcing the eventual track of that low pressure system, looking at the 3-hour pressure trends, and it's pretty clear what we're looking at in terms of a track. You can see the low pressure center right here in western Tennessee. One great way to determine where the eventual track is going to be is to follow your height or your surface pressure rise and fall couplets. You can see the pressure rises are quite dramatic down here in the Gulf Coast in southwestern sections of Tennessee, Louisiana, just southwest of that low pressure. And then as you look further to the north, very impressive height or pressure falls ahead of that. So if you draw a line from the height rise or pressure rise center to the pressure fall center, that gives you a strong indication of the track. That's where that low pressure should be going, because the pressures are falling most rapidly in Tennessee, in central Tennessee and western Kentucky. All bets are that this low pressure system is definitely going well west of the Appalachians, as we've been saying all along, headed towards west central Tennessee and south central sections of Kentucky later on today. Here's a closer look at what I was talking about with regards to the wind shift. You can see we're kind of variable over parts of Illinois and into eastern Missouri, but there's been a trend over the last hour watching these hour and a half to 2 hours watching the winds to see everybody begin to switch to a more northeast and then northerly direction. And these winds are gusting pretty strongly into the 20 knot range, or a little bit higher in some cases, especially out over western Missouri. That's a sign that that cold air is starting to filter in. And as you look at these temperatures, we're at 38 at Lambert, it's 35 up in Springfield, 37 in Quincy, and 34 in Kirksville with a dew point of 29. There is some drier air working in from the north. It's not much drier, but it is drier, and wet bulb temperatures would take us down into the middle 30s if precipitation started to fall right now. What we'll have to wait on after that is the progression, if you will, of the drier air aloft, and wait for the moisture to come in and mix with that to help do the evaporational cooling process, which I think eventually will change us over to snow once the rain does begin later on this afternoon. So now taking a look at the radar observations. This is the truth in what's actually going on, and it looks very similar to what the models actually have been indicating the past day or two. You can see kind of this mishmash of rain, the heaviest over the southeast with heavy thunderstorms and potentially some severe weather. But as the warm conveyor belt wraps back around the upper level centers, you can see what is for the moment a fairly narrow band of rather intense precipitation, light to moderate precipitation along the Ohio River, and then kind of squiggling its way back towards Arkansas, where it's starting to blossom once again around the upper level low pressure system. And you can also see some of the hints of the mesoscale banding that the NAM was certainly trying to indicate on and off the last couple of days. It appears there's definitely one here east of Kansas City, but we may be see the beginning stages of another one right up or just west of Interstate 44, where precipitation echoes are starting to show up. but not yet reach the ground. You can also really see the moisture beginning to bubble back to the west, northwest out of southwestern Illinois and southeastern Missouri. Eventually, this band in here that you can see with my cursor, that will solidify into the deformation band in the cold branch of the conveyor belt, or the warm conveyor belt wrapping into the cold air. And this will expand north and east along in southeast of I-44 and southeast of I-55 on the Illinois side of the river. So that's where our precipitation is coming from. It does look like to me that it will be here probably by noon, if not a little bit beforehand at the rate it's expanding. And it'll be interesting to see what the new model runs have to say.